on forensic and transactional audit. And the second topic is importance of forensic accounting and fraud detection for the chartered accountants. The first topic, forensic and transactional audit, will be taken by CA Rahul Jindal sir. He is from New Delhi. A fraud is a part of our day-to-day life now, and in a pandemic, we had seen many cyber attacks and many frauds are happening. So we had today a versatile speaker, a dynamic speaker, CA Rahul Jindal. I request CA Rajesh Poddar to kindly introduce our today's guest speaker.
Good morning, friends and seniors in the profession. Friends, today's topic is very interesting, forensic and transactional audit. Regarding today's speaker, Rahul Jindal is a partner in Mrs. PVRN and Company, heading the forensic division of the firm. He is a fellow chartered accountant, LLB DISA, certified fraud examiner, certified forensic auditor, IBBI registered valuer, certified concurrent auditor, diploma IFRS. He has handled more than 35,000 crores of forensic audit for public sector bank, private sector bank, PSC and other financial institutions. He has taken seminars for various institutions such as NIR, RC, ICAI, Bank of India Economic Offense Wing, NIC Study Circle, etc. Friends, with these few words, let us welcome today's speakers here, Rahul Jindal ji, with a loud applause. Thank you, sir. Looking forward to listen to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Amish ji, for giving me this opportunity. पहले तो मैं अमीश जी का congratulate करना चाहूँगा. He's calling speakers from all over India, like Delhi से, इंदौर से, South, West. तो ये मैं पहली बार देख रहा हूँ. It is a great initiative whereby it will be a stepping stone for other conveners as well. दीपक जी मेरे ख्याल नेक्स्ट कन्वीनर बन रहे हैं, तो उनके लिए स्टैंडर्ड बहुत हाई कर दिया अमीश जी ने. तो आई होप कि भी ये ट्रेंड कंटिन्यू रहे. सो नाउ स्टार्टिंग विद द टॉपिक फॉरेंसिक ऑडिट के बारे में मैं आप शुरू करता हूँ. आप देख रहे होंगे जैसे आजकल कितने फ्रॉड्स हो रहे हैं, कितने बैंक्स में फ्रॉड्स हो रहे हैं. आप डेली न्यूज़पेपर में पढ़ते होंगे सीबीआई कभी किसी को अरेस्ट कर रही है, दे आर अरेस्टिंग समवन. इट इज ओनली बिकॉज ऑफ द फॉरेंसिक ऑडिट बीइंग डन बाय द चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट. अल्टीमेटली आपको थोड़ा बैकग्राउंड दे देता हूँ. व्हाट इज द बैकग्राउंड ऑफ फॉरेंसिक ऑडिट. In 2016, RBI ने सारे बैंक्स को लिखा कि all the accounts above 50 crore rupees, they have to classify whether the account are fraud or not. So for that purpose, the bank, Indian Bank Association, IBA है बॉम्बे में, उन्होंने एक पैनल बनाया. all over India they impaneled 39 firms. So my firm was one of them, whereby they requested us to do the forensic audit of accounts above 50 crore and tell us whether there is any fraudulent transaction or not. So since we being an expert in financial frauds, so we were the ones who were undertaking such audit. So on the basis of our report, the banks were filing cases with CBI. तो CBI में cases file कर रहा था कि अभी हमने अब क्या करना है, उसको fraud classify करना है नहीं करना है. After classification of fraud, they send our report to CBI. CBI फिर हमको as a forensic auditor they call us as a witness. हमारी statement record होती है, they call for the evidences, and on the basis of discussion with the bankers, with the borrowers and with us, they file the charge sheet. So in today's scenario, considering the banking loans, the status of banking industry, forensic audit is a very important field. काफी लोग इसमें forensic audit में काम करना चाहते हैं. वो कहते हैं सर हमने सर्टिफिकेशन कर लिया लेकिन हमको काम नहीं मिलता. तो मैं इसके आपको 2 मिनट लेके आपको बताया था कि what is the procedure of taking forensic audit. उसके बाद I'll come to the topic, क्योंकि मेरे ख्याल उसमें सबसे ज्यादा इंटरेस्ट होता है लोगों की. सर हम forensic audit ले तो कैसे ले, हमने डिग्री ले ली है forensic FAFD की, but we don't get any work. सबसे पहले आपको इंडियन बैंक एसोसिएशन में अपने आप को पैनल करवाना पड़ेगा. जो आपकी सीए फर्म होती है वो इम्पैनल होती है, नॉट एन इंडिविजुअल. जैसे आईबीबीआई में इंसोलेंसी प्रोफेशनल हो गया, वैल्यूएशन वो इंडिविजुअल बेसिस पे आपकी इम्पैनलमेंट होती है. बट फॉर फॉरेंसिक ऑडिट आईबीए में आपकी फर्म इम्पैनल होगी. सो देयर आर 2 लिस्ट. वन इज आउटस्टैंडिंग अमाउंट अबव 50 करोड़ एंड आउटस्टैंडिंग अमाउंट बिलो 50 करोड़. आईबीए 2 पैनल बना के रखता है. तो जो अबव 50 करोड़ है उसके क्राइटेरियाज है, जैसे यू शुड हैव 5 पार्टनर्स आउट ऑफ विच 3 शुड हैव एफएएफडी डिग्री, or employee should have FAFD degree. You should have an experience of 10 years बैंक ऑडिट का, स्टॉक ऑडिट का, या एनी इन्वेस्टिगेशन ऑडिट दैट यू हैव डन. तो अगर आपने स्टॉक ऑडिट भी काफी करे, दैट विल आल्सो काउंट एज एन एक्सपीरियंस. तो काफी लोग कहते हैं सर हमको एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है तो हमको काम नहीं मिलेगा. इफ यू हैव डन बैंकिंग वर्क, स्टैट ऑडिट वर्क, स्टॉक ऑडिट वर्क और एनी प्राइवेट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इन्वेस्टिगेशन वर्क, यू आर एलिजिबल टू गेट इम्पैनल्ड. जो बिलो 50 करोड़ है उसमें 3 पार्टनर मांगता है, जिसमें से एक मांगता है FAFD का, कि वन शुड बी FAFD क्वालिफाइड, और बाकी उसमें एक्सपीरियंस मांगता है, मेरे ख्याल 4-5 साल का एक्सपीरियंस मांगता है. तो अगर आप देखेंगे जो इम्पैनलमेंट खुलता है आईबीए में, इट इज वंस अ ईयर. वो जनरली मई, जून, जुलाई में खुलता है, क्योंकि अभी पेंडेमिक के कारण लास्ट ईयर उन्होंने खोला नहीं अक्टूबर में. तो इसलिए अब जो पैनल खुलेगा वो मोस्ट प्रोबेबली मई या जून जुलाई में खुलेगा। तो इसकी साइट है IBA की, iba.org। तो यू शुड रेगुलरली फॉलो विद दैट वेबसाइट, जहाँ पे जब भी वो इम्पेलमेंट के लिए खुलेगा यू शुड अप्लाई। अगर आपका IBA में इम्पेलमेंट हो जाता है, देन दैट लिस्ट गोज टू ऑल द बैंक्स, then you automatically get impaneled on the banks। जितने भी बैंक्स है पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स में, you get impaneled and you are eligible to take work from them। रेस्ट इज डिपेंडेंट, आपको बैंक्स में अपना एलिजिबिलिटी पूरी होने के बाद आपको बैंक्स को अप्रोच करना पड़ेगा, दैट वी हैव दिस वर्क हैज बीन डन बाय अस, सो यू शुड प्लीज सेंड अस मेल्स फॉर गिविंग अस वर्क। तो फॉरेंसिक ऑडिट में भी टेंडरिंग बेसिस पे काम देते हैं वो आपको, जैसे सपोज अगर उन्होंने बॉम्बे का कोई अकाउंट अलॉट करना है, सो दे प्रेफर द फर्म्स हैविंग हेड ऑफिसेज इन बॉम्बे। सिमिलरली इन दिल्ली, इफ द ऑफिसेज आर हेड ऑफिसेज इन दिल्ली, देन दे प्रेफर द दिल्ली फर्म्स। तो ट्राई जहां पे भी आप बैठे हैं, अगर इफ यू आर लाइक आप सारे बॉम्बे में हैं, तो गिव योर हेड ऑफिसेज इन बॉम्बे while filing application in IBA, so that बॉम्बे में जितने भी बैंक्स हैं they can easily approach you for undertaking forensic audit। तो ये brief हुआ about forensic audit। अब हम आते हैं, I'll share this PPT with Amish sir as well after the completion of my webinar। तो सबसे पहले हम आते हैं why forensic audit। जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, फोरेंसिक ऑडिट इसलिए कंपल्सरी है क्योंकि RBI की गाइडलाइंस है कि अबव 50 करोड़ में तो बैंक को बताना ही बताना है कि वेदर एनी फ्रॉड हैज बीन अंडरटेकन और नॉट। फॉर दैट दे हायर द एक्सपर्ट्स। अब फोरेंसिक ऑडिट से पहले हमको पता करना है व्हाट इज फ्रॉड। अल्टीमेटली आवर मेन इंटेंशन इज टू फाइंड आउट कि भी फोरेंसिक ऑडिट में किसी कंपनी ने फ्रॉड करा या नहीं करा। नाउ आवर मेन फोकस इज टू आइडेंटिफाई फ्रॉड। व्हाट इज फ्रॉड, सबसे पहली डेफिनेशन आती है व्हाट इज फ्रॉड। आप कंपनीज एक्ट में पढ़ेंगे, IBC में पढ़ेंगे, दे हैव डिफाइंड फ्रॉड। मैं आपको सिंपल लैंग्वेज में एक लाइन में बताता हूँ। फ्रॉड होता है जानबूझ के धोखा देना, एन इंटेंशनल मिस्टेक, दैट इज फ्रॉड। बस आप इतना है, इफ यू कैन रिमेंबर दिस मच, आपको कोई डेफिनेशन याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है, कंपनीज एक्ट की, IBC की, नथिंग। इफ अ मिस्टेक हैज बीन डन और एनी एक्ट हैज बीन डन इंटेंशनली, दैट इज फ्रॉड। एनी इंटेंशनल, आई विल रीड द डेफिनेशन, जैसे मैं आपको बताता हूँ अभी, ये मैं PPT शेयर कर दूंगा। फ्रॉड इज एन अनलॉफुल एंड इंटेंशनल मिस्टेक विद एन इंटेंट टू डिसीव और डिफ्रॉड बाय कॉजिंग एक्चुअल और पोटेंशियल प्रेजुडिस। ये डेफिनेशन है। प्रूविंग द इंटेंट इज द की। आप कोई भी फोरेंसिक ऑडिट करते हैं, आपको प्रूविंग द इंटेंशन कि द इंटेंशन ऑफ द बोरोर वाज टू डिसीव एंड कॉज अनलॉफुल थिंग एंड टू कॉज फाइनेंशियल लॉस टू द पर्सन, दैट इज फ्रॉड। तो यू हैव फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू हैव टू प्रूव द इंटेंशन कि बोरोर की इंटेंशन क्या थी। अब आपका नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन आएगा कि भी सर हम बोरोर के इंटेंशन कैसे प्रूव करें। हाउ शुड वी प्रूव द इंटेंशन ऑफ द बोरोर, दैट इज द मेन थिंग, बिकॉज वी कैन नॉट गो इनटू द माइंड ऑफ द बोरोर कि भी वो चीज उसने इंटेंशनल करी है अनइंटेंशनल करी है। उसके लिए अभी मैं आपसे केस स्टडीज डिस्कस करूंगा बहुत सारी, जो आई विल डिस्कस द मेन स्कोप ऑफ वर्क जो बैंक्स हमको देता है, या BSE बॉम्बे स्टॉक एक्सचेंज देता है, या CBI देता है, या EOW देता है, जो भी हमको ब्रीफ हमको स्कोप ऑफ वर्क देता है, आई हैव कंपाइल्ड इट एंड आई विल डिस्कस इट विद यू कि आप जब वो स्कोप देखेंगे ना, यू विल इजीली आइडेंटिफाई वेदर द मिस्टेक वाज इंटेंशनल और एन अनइंटेंशनल मिस्टेक। आपको सबसे पहले ये देखना है, यू हैव टू पुट योरसेल्फ इन द शूज ऑफ द बोरोर। आपको बोरोर के शूज में कि अगर मैं इस बंदे की जगह होता तो मैं क्या करता उस केस में। सपोज अगर मैं फॉरेंसिक ऑडिटर और मेरे सामने कोई बोरोर बैठा है, ही डील्स इन राइस या ही डील्स इन स्टील और ही डील्स इन ज्वेलरी, एनी ऑफ द दीस थ्री थिंग्स, या कोई भी इंडस्ट्री में डील करता है, तो एज अ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट आई एम क्वालिफाइड इनफ टू थिंक इन अ वे लाइक अ बोरोर कैन, अ बिजनेसमैन कैन थिंक। मैं आपको एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल देता हूँ इंटेंशन का, फिर मैं आपको पूरी केस स्टडीज वगैरह में बताऊंगा। मैंने एक राइस इंडस्ट्री का, या मैं कहता हूँ एक ज्वेलरी इंडस्ट्री का ऑडिट करा। ज्वेलरी इंडस्ट्री में क्या होता है, जो आपकी सबसे पहले जो CC लिमिट लेते हैं ज्वेलरी इंडस्ट्री वाले, तो सबसे पहले उनकी जो मेन प्राइमरी सिक्योरिटी होती है दैट इज स्टॉक एंड सेकंड इज डेटर्स। अब जितने भी आप पहले देखिए, बैंक में दो तरह की लिमिट होती है, एक होती है फंड बेस्ड, एक नॉन फंड बेस्ड। फंड बेस्ड में होती है आपकी टर्म लोन या CC लिमिट या OD लिमिट, नॉन फंड बेस्ड DG, LCs, पैकिंग राइट, अदर दोस थिंग्स। जब हम फंड बेस्ड की बात करते हैं तो मोर देन 50-60% आपकी लिमिट्स जो होती है दे आर इन फॉर्म ऑफ CC लिमिट। CC लिमिट में क्या होता है, मेजर जो आपकी प्राइमरी सिक्योरिटी होती है दैट इज स्टॉक एंड डेटर्स। बाकी जो टर्म लोन होता है उसमें आपके जो भी एसेट क्रिएट होता है या जो भी फिक्स्ड एसेट्स क्रिएट होता है दैट इज अ प्राइमरी सिक्योरिटी। तो CC लिमिट में सबसे मेन फोकस हमारा होता है, जो सबसे ज्यादा फ्रॉड्स भी होते हैं वो सबसे ज्यादा फ्रॉड्स होते हैं CC लिमिट में या फिर नॉन फंड बेस्ड में, क्योंकि टर्म लोन में तो उनकी मंथली रीपेमेंट जाती है, फिक्स्ड एसेट इज टू बी क्रिएटेड, then only they make payment. कभी कभार एडवांस भी देते हैं, उसमें भी फ्रॉड होते हैं, but maximum fraud happens in the case of CC limit, cash credit limit, or in the case of non fund based limit. जैसे नीरव मोदी वाला था, that was a non fund based limit. सीसी लिमिट में आप देखेंगे जितने भी राइस वाले हैं, जितने भी स्टील वाले हैं, जितने भी ज्वेलरी वाले हैं, सबने सीसी लिमिट्स ली हुई है अगेंस्ट स्टॉक एंड डेटर्स. तो मैं आपको उसका एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ कि हाउ टू प्रूव द इंटेंशन. हमने किसी स्टील वाले का ऑडिट करा, उसने क्या करा, डेटर्स खड़े करे थे और स्टॉक खड़ा करा था. सपोज 31 मार्च 20 को वो अकाउंट हो गया एनपीए. उसकी बुक्स में खड़े थे 200 करोड़ के डेटर और 100 करोड़ के स्टॉक खड़ा था. उसने क्या करा, जिस दिन अकाउंट एनपीए हुआ उसी दिन सारे डेटर राइट ऑफ कर दिए और सारा स्टॉक राइट ऑफ कर दिया उसने. तो हमने उससे पूछा एज एन फॉरेंसिक ऑडिटर, आई आस्क्ड हिम, सर आपने डेटर्स राइट ऑफ करे हैं, डिड यू मेक एनी एफर्ट टू रिकवर दैट मनी? ही सेड कि भी सर मैंने तो लीगल नोटिस भेजे थे, कोई जवाब नहीं आया, इसलिए हमने सारे राइट ऑफ कर दिए. अब आपको क्या करना है फॉरेंसिक ऑडिटर? यू हैव टू पुट योरसेल्फ इन द प्लेस ऑफ द बोरोर. आपको बोरोर की प्लेस में शूज में आ जाना है. यू हैव टू कम इन द शूज ऑफ द बोरोर. कि अगर मैं इसकी जगह होता और मेरे को 200 करोड़ रिकवर करने होते तो मैं क्या करता? मेरे तो अगर कोई 10 लाख भी ले लेता तो मैं उसके लीगल नोटिस फाइल करता, मैं कोर्ट में केस फाइल करता. अब खैर आईबीसी की लिमिट 1 करोड़ हो गया, मैं उसको आईबीसी में लेके जाने की कोशिश करता अगर वो कॉर्पोरेट होता. आई वुड हैव डन दीज थिंग्स टू प्रूव माय इंटेंशन कि भी हाँ मैं रिकवर करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. जब वो बोरोर ने कहता जी सर मैंने लीगल नोटिस भेजे, उसका जवाब नहीं आया, मेरे को मिल नहीं रहा, तो मैंने राइट ऑफ कर दिए. दिस क्लियरली प्रूव्स कि उसके डेटर्स इन्फ्लेटेड थे, उसके डेटर्स फर्जी थे सारे, तभी उसने एफर्ट नहीं करा. इसमें आपको क्या करना है, आपको अपनी रिपोर्ट में लिखना है that no effective legal steps have been taken by the borrower to recover such money. Borrower ने legal effective steps नहीं लिए to recover that money. Hence, in that case, we are of the opinion that the debtors are inflated. आप उनको confirmation letter भेजेंगे. You can go for physical confirmation if the bank permits. अगर बैंक आपको स्कोप में देता है या आपके एरिया के आसपास है, तो you have to physically visit them as well. आप उनकी फोटो खींचेंगे, you will attach them as an annexure in your report. तो डेटर्स को वेरीफाई करेंगे आप. यू विल चेक कि वेदर एनी, जैसे मैं बताता हूँ, कैलकाटा में हमने कंपनी का ऑडिट करा, उसके एक ही एड्रेस पे 12/10 की एक शॉप थी, उसके अंदर 850 कंपनियां रजिस्टर्ड थी. 850 कंपनीज वर रजिस्टर्ड ऑन वन एड्रेस. सो देयर वाज नो चांस कि भी आप, वो पॉसिबल ही नहीं था. दिस क्लियरली प्रूव्स द इंटेंशन दैट ही हैड अ मैलाफाइड इंटेंशन एंड ही हैज डन दिस इंटेंशनली टू टेक आउट द मनी. Yeah, he has misrepresented his debtors and stock in financial statement before the bank for availing drawing power. मेन जो बंदा डेटर्स और स्टॉक में हेराफेरी करता है सीसी लिमिट के लिए, दैट इज ओनली फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ ड्राइंग पावर, ताकि उसकी डीपी निकले और ही कैन गेट हिज लिमिट एनहांस्ड फ्रॉम द बैंक्स. तो आपको सबसे पहले डेटर्स, जो भी आप डेटर्स और स्टॉक देखेंगे सीसी लिमिट में, यू हैव टू वेरीफाई कि डेटर्स और स्टॉक उसके जेन्युइन है या नहीं है. दिस इज वन ऑफ द मेन फोकस एरिया व्हाइल डूइंग द फोरेंसिक ऑडिट. अदर देन दैट बैलेंस शीट में और भी आइटम्स होता है, आई विल डिस्कस दैट इन द स्कोप. और भी आइटम्स होते हैं, कैपिटल होता है, अनसिक्योर्ड लोन होता है, इन्वेस्टमेंट्स होता है, फिक्स्ड एसेट्स होते हैं, लोन एंड एडवांसेस होता है. देन यू कम टू P&L, you have sales, purchase, expenses, depreciation, interest cost, you have all those things, finance charges. बट जो आपका मेन फोकस होता है बैंक्स का, जो मेन फोकस रहता है वो रहता है डेटर्स एंड स्टॉक पे, बिकॉज दैट इज देयर प्राइमरी सिक्योरिटी. क्योंकि पहले जो बैंक्स लोन सैंक्शन करते थे उसमें कोलेटरल सिक्योरिटी दैट वाज ओनली अबाउट 10%, 20% और 30% ऑफ द टोटल लिमिट. अब बैंक्स ने थोड़ा रिस्ट्रिक्शन कर दिया कि नाउ दे नीड अ हायर वैल्यू ऑफ कोलेटरल सिक्योरिटी. सो सबसे मेन फोकस आपका फोरेंसिक ऑडिट में रहेगा टू इन सीसी लिमिट टू आइडेंटिफाई द स्टेटस ऑफ रिकवरेबिलिटी ऑफ प्राइमरी सिक्योरिटी, दैट इज स्टॉक एंड डेटर्स. तो आपको स्टॉक एंड डेटर्स पे मेन फोकस रखना है. जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि उसने डेटर्स की रिकवरी के लिए इफेक्टिव लीगल स्टेप्स नहीं लिए हैं. This clearly shows that he was not following proper due diligence procedures and all his debtors was fake. इसका मैं आपको एक और फर्दर स्टेप बताता हूँ. हमने अपनी रिपोर्ट में लिख दिया था एक केस में कि भाई इसके डेटर्स फेक है और ये सारे फर्जी हैं. तो बोरोर ने क्या करा, बोरोर ने केस फाइल करा हमारे अगेंस्ट एज एन ऑडिटर कि भी इन्होंने गलत लिखा रिपोर्ट में. मैटर रीच्ड इनटू सीबीआई, सीबीआई के पास गया. सीबीआई वाले ने सारे डेटर्स को लेटर्स डाले, समन्स डाले, बिकॉज सीबीआई हैज द पावर टू कॉल एनीवन. एज एन फॉरेंसिक ऑडिटर वी हैव लिमिटेड पावर्स because we are a professional. We cannot force anyone to come to our office or give us a statement. But CBI or EOW or police has unlimited power. उसने क्या करा, सारे डेटर्स को चिट्ठी डाली. उसने करीबन 100 डेटर्स को चिट्ठी डाली. 100 में से 15 ने आके ये स्टेटमेंट दी कि साहब हमने सिर्फ बिलिंग कर रखी है, हमने एक्चुअल में कोई सेल परचेज नहीं करी. This clearly proves that his intention was malified. आपका काम, आपको अपने आप को, मैं फिर कहता हूँ, रिपीट करता हूँ, प्रूविंग द इंटेंशन इज द की इन फोरेंसिक ऑडिट. अगर आपने इंटेंशन प्रूव कर दी कि उसने ये जानबूझ के करा है, he has made an intentional mistake with an intent to deceive and defraud the bankers, then you can easily classify that account as fraud. But if the mistake is unintentional, you have to be very careful while classifying the account as fraud. For your safety, you have to write the language, because there are 3 parts in forensic audit. First part is taking work, because आजकल competition बहुत है. Second part is executing the work, and third part is report preparation and presenting it before the banks. Report writing एक बहुत बड़ा scope है, उसके लिए मैं आज नहीं discuss कर पाऊंगा. That is a separate topic itself. Report writing is a very very tedious job, क्योंकि जो भी आप report में जो भी language लिखते हैं, that each and every line is being read by the bankers and by the CBI officials. So you have to be very careful while writing your limitations, while concluding your report, while writing everything you're writing in the part wise. आपको parts मिलते हैं report में लिखने के लिए, part A, part B, part C, 11-12 parts होते हैं. तो while writing each and every part, you have to be very specific, and the language is to be very good. मतलब you have to express what you are saying. अगर आपने कोई भी wavered language लिखी, that can go against you by the banks and by CBI. So report writing, if you are doing first assignment, second assignment, get your report read by some professional or some seniors who has an experience in that field, ताकि वो आपको guide करे कि भी आपको report में कैसे लिखना है, क्या लिखना है. So it is very taking work and then presenting it before the banks, because जितने भी आपके forensic audit होंगे, you have to present your report before the banks. You never know banks, अब आपके 4 बैंक होंगे या 20 बैंक होंगे. The highest number of banks that I handled individually were 25 banks. उनके सारे क्वेश्चंस आएंगे. So you have to be very thorough with your report. You have to know each and every, मतलब figures you should remember. You should memorize, क्योंकि वहां पे आपको टाइम बहुत कम मिलता है कि सर मैं देख के बताता हूँ आपको, मैं फिगर, मैं पेज नंबर देख के बताता हूँ. So you have to be very thorough with your report while presenting it before the banks. आप एक executive summary बनाइए अपने लिए, so that if any questions come, जहाँ पे आपको लगता है कि bankers can ask a question, the figures or the page number or the reference should be readily available with you. तो यहाँ मैंने आपको बताया fraud के बारे में. Fraud is in proving the intention is the key. अभी मैं उसके पूरी प्रैक्टिकल केस स्टडीज आपसे डिस्कस करूंगा फॉर प्रूविंग द इंटेंशन. जैसे मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिया डेटर्स का, कि उसने डेटर्स की रिकवरी के लिए कोई इफेक्टिव लीगल स्टेप्स नहीं लिए. यू हैव टू बी श्योर कि उसने स्टेप्स नहीं लिए. देन राइट दैट पार्ट इज टू बी ब्रॉट इन योर रिपोर्ट कि एज पर आवर नॉलेज नो इफेक्टिव लीगल स्टेप्स हैव नॉट बीन अंडरटेकन बाय द मैनेजमेंट, व्हिच इज नॉट इन नॉर्मल कोर्स ऑफ बिजनेस फॉर अ रेगुलर बिजनेसमैन. Hence, we are of the opinion that the debtors might have been overstated by the borrower in his books of accounts just to avail higher drawing power. So this is a type of language or something like that has to be written in the report. Might, may, these words have to be used because you are not a judge. You are just presenting your opinion. Judge can write that he is convicted. You can only write that it appears, it seems, it may be, it might be. You have to use these words. Let bank take the call, because सारी responsibility आप अपने ऊपर नहीं ले सकते. So you have to use the language जिससे you can just give your opinion कि मेरे को लगता है ऐसा, बाकी is your call. आप सीधा लिख सकते कि ये चोर है, आप सीधा सीधा नहीं लिख सकते. आपको लिखना है कि ये लगता है, या मेरे को लग रहा है, या as per records available है, लग रहा है, ऐसे आपको language ऐसे यूज करनी पड़ेगी. That's why I said report writing is a altogether separate different topic. अब हम आते हैं मेन. आपने जिसने FAFD का कोर्स करा होगा वहां पे फ्रॉड ट्रायंगल पढ़ाते हैं कि अपॉर्चुनिटी, मोटिवेशन एंड रैशनलाइजेशन. सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स आर टू बी नोन कि भी ये 3 चीजें होती है जिसके कारण आप फ्रॉड कर सकते हैं. अब अपॉर्चुनिटी कैसे होती है? सपोज आई एम सत्यम, जैसे हुआ मिस्टर राजू, ही हैड द अपॉर्चुनिटी बिकॉज ही वाज सिटिंग एट द टॉप, हेंस द अपॉर्चुनिटी. रैशनलाइजेशन, रैशनलाइजेशन कैसे है कि भैया मैं और मेरा कोलीग सेम काम कर रहे हैं. माई कोलीग इज अर्निंग 2 लाख रुपीज, आई एम अर्निंग 20,000 रुपीज. सो आई एम ट्राइंग टू रैशनलाइज कि जब हम दोनों सेम काम कर रहे हैं, तो जब वो 2 लाख रुपए कमा रहे हैं कंपनी से, तो मेरे को भी 2 लाख मिलने चाहिए. मैनेजमेंट इज अंडर पेइंग मी, सो आई ट्राई मैलिशियस इंटेंशन. मैं कोई ऐसे तरीके निकालूंगा जिससे डिफरेंशियल ऑफ 180 कैन बी गॉट बाय मी. मोटिवेशन, मोटिवेशन कैसे आता है? यार मेरे पास बड़ी गाड़ी होनी चाहिए, मेरे पास बड़ा घर होना चाहिए. दीपक जी आप कुछ कह रहे हैं? आप साइलेंट पे हैं. जैसे मोटिवेशन है, मोटिवेशन ये होती है कि मेरे पास बड़ी गाड़ी होनी चाहिए, बड़ा घर होना चाहिए. तो these are the 3 things why people commit fraud in fraud triangle: opportunity, rationalization and motivation. अब आते हैं एक 5 मिनट डिस्कस करके फिर मैं आपको बताता हूँ व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन अ स्टैट ऑडिट एंड अ फोरेंसिक ऑडिट. स्टैट ऑडिट event transpires prior to issue of financial statement. Stat audit आप जनरली करते हैं बिफोर इशूइंग द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स। जैसे अगर आपकी 1 अप्रैल 20 से 31 मार्च 20 का कर रहे हैं, यू विल डू स्टैट ऑडिट फ्रॉम अप्रैल टू सितंबर या जो भी पीरियड होगा। आफ्टर दैट यू विल इशू द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स। Forensic audit is always for prior period. It can be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years as per the period decided by the banks. Forensic audit का पीरियड हमेशा बैंक आपको देगा, आपको खुद नहीं डिसाइड करना। अगर उसमें नहीं लिखा है पीरियड और उसमें लिखा है कि भी प्लीज डू फोरेंसिक ऑडिट दिस अकाउंट, प्लीज डोंट स्टार्ट द ऑडिट बिफोर टेकिंग द पीरियड फ्रॉम द बैंक्स। हमारे 5-6 केसेस में ऐसा हो चुका है, बैंक ने पीरियड नहीं डिफाइन करा, वी डिड नॉट स्टार्ट द ऑडिट अनलेस एंड अंटिल बैंक डिफाइंस द पीरियड। क्योंकि क्या होता है, सपोज आपने 3 साल अपनी मर्जी से 3 साल कर दिया, बैंक आपको कहेगा कि आपने 3 साल कैसे करा, 5 साल का क्यों नहीं करा आपने, या कोई और प्रायर पीरियड में कोई फ्रॉड मिल गया तो फिर बैंक कहेगा कि आपने क्यों नहीं करा, हमने तो पीरियड स्पेसिफाई नहीं करा था। तो बिफोर स्टार्टिंग एनी ऑडिट ऑलवेज गेट पीरियड आइडेंटिफाइड बाय द बैंक्स और द अपॉइंटिंग अथॉरिटी कि क्या स्कोप होना चाहिए। द स्कोप शुड बी क्लियरली डिफाइंड कि भी हमको डेटर्स चेक करने हैं, स्टॉक चेक करना है, unsecured loan check करना है। The scope should be clearly defined and the period should also be clearly defined. These are the 2 things which should be clearly defined in your appointment letter. If they are not defined, don't accept the assignment unless and until they are clearly defined. They have to clearly define those things. आपने स्टेटमेंट सुनी होगी, statutory auditor is a watchdog, not a bloodhound. In forensic audit, you have to be a bloodhound. In statutory audit, there is no assumption that fraud has been undertaken. But in forensic audit, हमारा mindset होता है कि उसने fraud करा ही करा है। We have to prove that thing. क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली अगर अकाउंट खराब हुआ है, एनपीए हुआ है, तो 90-95% केसेस में उसने कुछ ना कुछ गड़बड़ जरूर करी होगी। तो वी हैव एन assumption in forensic audit that कोई ना कोई फ्रॉड जरूर हुआ है, assumption that fraud has taken place. The purpose of statutory audit is to assist the reader in reaching financial decision. जैसे अगर कोई listed company हो, शेयर होल्डर्स हो, they can take, जैसे banks हो, they can take a legal decision, they can take a financial decision कि whether to fund it further or not. As a listed company मैं डिसीजन ले सकता हूँ कि भी मैं इस कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट करूँ ना करूँ। Purpose of forensic audit is to assist the reader in reaching a legal decision कि भी whether the account is fraud or not, whether any complaint is to be filed before CBI or EOW or not. So forensic auditor helps the appointing authority to reach to a legal conclusion. We have to identify the stewardship of directors. We have to identify वो कंपनी को कहाँ पे लेके जा रहे हैं, what is their motive, what is their aim, what is their future projections. The purpose of stat audit is that. But forensic audit, we have to identify the perpetrator. कि भाई किसने फ्रॉड करा। We have to identify the person who has undertaken such fraud. We have to identify the person who has caused the loss to the company. So that is our main thing in forensic audit. अब आते हैं हमारा जो मेन फोकस है फाइनेंशियल फ्रॉड पे। अभी टाइम कम है तो मैं आपको स्कोप पे आ जाता हूँ मैं फटाफट। ये सर दिख रहा है सबको सर? ये मैं थोड़ा छोटा कर देता हूँ। अभी दिख रहा है सर सबको?
यस सर, यस सर।
ठीक है। ये जनरली हमारा जो बैंक्स हमको स्कोप देते हैं, जनरली दिस इज अ 12, 13, 15 पॉइंट स्कोप जनरली जो बैंक्स देते हैं। तो मैंने सारे बैंक्स का या जिसका भी मैंने मर्ज करके एक अपना 12 पॉइंट्स का स्कोप बनाया है। आई विल रन थ्रू दैट स्कोप, आपको आइडेंटिफाई होगा अल्टीमेटली कंप्लीट बैलेंस शीट इज कवर्ड इन द स्कोप प्रोवाइड बाय द बैंक्स, जो फोरेंसिक ऑडिट का बैंक स्कोप देता है। फर्स्ट पॉइंट इज ट्रेसिंग द सोर्स एंड जेन्युइननेस ऑफ कंट्रीब्यूशन बाय प्रमोटर बाय एनालाइजिंग इक्विटी डेट। आपके पास काफी क्लाइंट्स आते होंगे जो कहते होंगे कि भी साहब हमको ये प्रमोटर कंट्रीब्यूशन का सर्टिफिकेट देना होता है बैंक्स में। प्लीज डोंट साइन दैट सर्टिफिकेट अनलेस एंड अनटिल यू हैव कंप्लीट इन्फॉर्मेशन। आई विल टेल यू व्हाट इज कंप्लीट इन्फॉर्मेशन। एक कंपनी है ए, उसके प्रमोटर्स है बी एंड सी। बी एंड सी इंट्रोड्यूस्ड 1 करोड़ ईच इन द कंपनी। जो हमारा पहला स्कोप है, इसका पर्पस ये है टू आइडेंटिफाई वेदर द 1 करोड़ रुपीज ईच इंट्रोड्यूस्ड बाय द डायरेक्टर इन द कंपनी आर फ्रॉम जेन्युइन सोर्स और नॉट। जनरली हम क्या करते हैं, जो बोरोर होता है वो क्या करता है, कंपनी की बैंक स्टेटमेंट ले आता है, ये देखो जी पैसे आ गए कंपनी में, आप साइन कर दो सर्टिफिकेट। यहाँ पे पैसे आना इज नॉट द पर्पस ऑफ द बैंक्स। आप कभी भी सर्टिफिकेट ध्यान से पढ़ना, उसमें लैंग्वेज होती है जेन्युइननेस ऑफ कंट्रीब्यूशन, सोर्स एंड जेन्युइननेस। पैसे तो 100% केसेस में आते हैं सर, कंपनी में पैसे 100% केसेस में आते हैं। यहाँ पे बैंक का फोकस रहता है टू आइडेंटिफाई जो पैसा कंपनी में आया है, क्या प्रमोटर ने अपनी जेब से लगाया है या कंपनी से निकाल के ही लेके आया है। मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ, हमने केस में करा, उसमें क्या हुआ, पैसा जैसे कंपनी ने अपने डेटर्स को दिया, डेटर से आया सॉरी पैसा, कंपनी ने क्रेडिटर्स को दिया पैसा, क्रेडिटर ने क्या करा, क्रेडिटर ने आगे डायरेक्टर को दिया पैसा, डायरेक्टर वो पैसा वापस कंपनी में लेके आ गया, वो सिर्फ एंट्री घूमी है, राउंड ट्रिपिंग हुई। सो अब आप क्या करते हैं, जब आप सर्टिफिकेट साइन करते हैं, आप सिर्फ बैंक की उसकी कंपनी के बैंक स्टेटमेंट लेते हैं कि भाई हाँ जी कंपनी में पैसा आ गया, एंड देन यू साइन दैट सर्टिफिकेट. दैट इज वेरी 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 रिस्की. डोंट साइन दैट सर्टिफिकेट, बिकॉज बैंक उसी सर्टिफिकेट के बेसिस पे उसकी प्रमोटर कंट्रीब्यूशन को एक्सेप्ट करता है. और अगर कल को एज अ फोरेंसिक ऑडिटर मैं लिखता हूँ कि उसकी कंट्रीब्यूशन जेन्युइन नहीं थी, सीबीआई पीपल विल कॉल यू ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ दैट सिंगल पेज कि भाई साहब आपने कंट्रीब्यूशन कैसे चेक करी आपने, सोर्स एंड जेन्युइननेस. टू आइडेंटिफाई द सोर्स एंड जेन्युइननेस यू हैव टू टेक द बैंक स्टेटमेंट ऑफ प्रमोटर कि भाई प्रमोटर के पास पैसा कहाँ से आया. सपोज प्रमोटर का पैसा आया उसकी वाइफ से, आप उसकी वाइफ की स्टेटमेंट लेंगे. उसकी वाइफ का पैसा आया उसकी डॉटर से, आप उसकी डॉटर की स्टेटमेंट लेंगे. अब क्वेश्चन आता है टू व्हाट एक्सटेंट यू विल गो. You will go to the extent till an unrelated party comes. अगर मैंने जैसा आपको डेटर क्रेडिटर का एग्जांपल दिया कि भी प्रमोटर के पास किसी डेटर से आया, that is just round tripping and not actual introduction of funds. So you have to check कि प्रमोटर का सोर्स क्या है, whether it is genuine or not. If you are not able to verify, please don't sign that certificate. I am telling from my experience, ये CBI वाले तंग करेंगे आपको अगर वो कल को फ्रॉड हुआ अकाउंट. If you are not able to verify the source and genuineness, please do not sign the certificate. Then you amend the language of that certificate and write कि we have only verified the introduction of funds and we are unable to comment on source and genuineness of contribution. मैं फिर रिपीट करूंगा, please amend that certificate. Don't give that certificate unless and until you have verified the source and genuineness of contribution. तो इसमें हम बैंक का मेन फोकस रहता है कि भी वेदर प्रमोटर हैज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड हिज फंड्स और नॉट. मैं आपको एग्जांपल देता हूं एक और. जैसे एनएचआई का होता है, एनएचआई में आपने काफी रोड प्रोजेक्ट्स करे होंगे, अगर आपको आइडिया होगा एनएचआई जो देता है. अब क्या होता है, पहले क्या होता था 2010 11 12 में ये बहुत चलता था, एक ही रोड पे 3 बारी फंडिंग होती थी. कैसे होती थी मैं उसको जल्दी बताऊंगा, अगर किसी ने पहले कर रखा है तो उसको इजिली समझ आ जाएगा. एक होल्डिंग कंपनी होती थी, वो अपने नीचे बहुत सारी एसपीवीज बना लेता था हर स्टेट में, क्योंकि हर स्टेट में काम लेने के लिए यू नीड टू हैव एन एसपीवी, स्पेशल पर्पस व्हीकल कहते हैं उसको. तो जैसे सपोज करिए होल्डिंग कंपनी को, जैसे एसपीवी को एनएचआई ने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट दिया, सपोज मैं कहूँ बॉम्बे से गोवा तक की एक रोड बनानी है, तो बॉम्बे में एक कंपनी है उसको एसपीवी, वो एसपीवी है, उसको एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मिला है एनएचआई से कि आप बॉम्बे से गोवा की रोड बनाइए. तो वो कंपनी ने, एसपीवी ने बैंक से लोन लिया. अब एसपीवी ने क्या करा, वही रोड के लिए, उसी रोड के लिए सब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर दिया उसको अपनी होल्डिंग कंपनी को कि मेरे बिहाफ पे ये रोड बनाएगी मेरी होल्डिंग कंपनी. अब होल्डिंग कंपनी के पास भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट आ गया, तो होल्डिंग कंपनी ने भी उसी रोड पे लोन ले लिया. और तीसरा क्या होता है, थर्ड फंडिंग कैसे आती है, एनएचआई भी ग्रांट देती है फिर. तो एक ही रोड पे 3 बारी फंडिंग हो जाती थी कि भी होल्डिंग कंपनी को भी मिल गया, एसपीवी को भी मिल गया और एनएचआई की ग्रांट भी हो गई. अब वो चीज रुक गई, अब बैंक अलाउ नहीं करते. पहले भी नहीं था अलाउड, लेकिन पहले वो इतना केयरफुली नहीं देख रहे थे वो बैंक्स वाले, क्योंकि उसमें सब लिमिट्स का इशू होता है. दैट इज अ डिटेल्ड डिस्कशन ऑल टुगेदर. उसमें सब लिमिट्स का इशू होता है. तो इसलिए कभी भी अगर आप सर्टिफिकेट साइन करें एज अ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, प्लीज डोंट साइन एनी सर्टिफिकेट फॉर कंट्रीब्यूशन अनलेस एंड अंटिल यू आर एबल टू वेरीफाई द सोर्स एंड जेन्युइननेस ऑफ कंट्रीब्यूशन. फॉरेंसिक ऑडिट करते टाइम you have to take bank statement from the promoters till you find an unrelated party. If you find any party dealing with the company, then it is just round tripping and not actual introduction of funds. अगर जैसे अगर कंपनी ने क्रेडिटर को दिया, क्रेडिटर ने प्रमोटर और प्रमोटर ने वापस कंपनी में लेके आया, it is just round tripping and you have to mention in your report. If you are unable to verify, please write in your report, due to lack of complete statements and records from the borrower, we are unable to verify the source and genuineness of contribution by the promoters. Please write in your report. Again, that comes to report writing. Agar aap verify, 2 years transactions are to be verified. For unrelated party, it is 1 year. For these three sections. For section 66, no time period has been defined, but generally it is said that it is done for 5 years. Generally it is said. But agar RP ने आपको 2 साल का ही period दिया है, then for section 66 also you have to cover only 2 years. You write that in your report कि as per the scope provided to us, we have only covered 2 years for section 66 as well. तो 43, 45 और 50 के लिए आपको 2 years लेना है related party के लिए, 1 year लेना है unrelated party के लिए. For section 66, no time period has been defined. अब section 43 का मैं आपको बताया, तो preferential transaction क्या होता है, suppose किसी आपके किसी related party का या unrelated का लोन खड़ा है, unsecured लोन, और आपने उसको पैसा दे दिया, उसको रिफंड कर दिया लोन within a period of 2 years for related and within a period of 1 year for unrelated party, then it is called a preferential transaction. That you have given preference to these parties over the secured lenders. मतलब हमने secured lenders को payment ना करके इन parties को payment करा है, that is considered as a preferential transaction. We are giving preference. So if we are making any payment to any of the creditors, then it is said as preferential transaction. However, there is an exception of section 43(2), whereby if the payment is made for business purposes, then it is not considered as a preferential transaction. So if the payment is made to creditors जिनसे हमने purchase करा है, then it is not considered as preferential. But कोई unsecured loan हो या पुराना balance खड़ा हो किसी का, उसको हम repay कर रहे हैं, that is considered as preferential. So you have to identify whether it was a business transaction or not a business transaction. Second आता है हमारा undervalued. Undervalued में क्या होता है हमारा? We have to identify whether the transactions has been made at an undervalued rate. Suppose मेरी कंपनी में मेरी गाड़ी खड़ी थी BMW, उसको क्या करा, उसकी वैल्यू थी 50 लाख. जैसे इंसॉल्वेंसी से 1 साल पहले मैंने वो गाड़ी किसी को बेच दी 10 लाख रुपए में, उसकी मार्केट वैल्यू थी 40 लाख रुपए. तो उससे क्या होता है? दैट इज एन अंडरवैल्यूड ट्रांजैक्शन, दैट आई हैव इंटेंशनली सोल्ड द कार एट एन अंडरवैल्यूड रेट सो दैट कंपनी में सिर्फ 10 लाख रुपए ही आए, बाकी मैंने कैश में ले लिए. सो दैट इज कंसिडर्ड एज एन अंडरवैल्यूड ट्रांजैक्शन की सेलिंग द गुड्स. इट कैन बी इन फॉर्म ऑफ फिक्स्ड एसेट्स और इट कैन बी इन फॉर्म ऑफ स्टॉक और एनीथिंग कि उसने स्टॉक अंडरवैल्यूड रेट पे काट दिया. दैट इज कंसिडर्ड एज एन अंडरवैल्यूड ट्रांजैक्शन. थर्ड आता है आपका अंडरवैल्यूड के बाद आता है एक्सटॉर्शनेट ट्रांजैक्शन. एक्सटॉर्शनेट में क्या है? सेक्शन 50 में सपोज मेरा बैंक से लोन चल रहा है 12% पे, मैंने क्या करा, थर्ड पार्टी से लोन ले लिया 20% पे. सो दैट इज नॉट करेक्ट कि भी अगर मैं 20% पे लोन ले रहा हूँ, दैट इज कंसिडर्ड एज एन एक्सटॉर्शनेट ट्रांजैक्शन कि भी आई एम कि जिस रेट पे मैंने लोन लिया है दैट इज एक्सॉर्बिडेंट, कि भी उसका जो रेट है या टर्म्स ऑफ रीपेमेंट है. सपोज मेरा बैंक का लोन चल रहा है 10 साल का, मैंने किसी से लोन लिया 20% पे कि मेरे को उसको 1 साल के अंदर रीपे करना है. So terms of repayment of such loan are beneficial or against the terms of the secured lenders. कि secured lenders will not be able to get their money. So extortionate means either the rate of interest is very high or the repayment terms are more beneficial to the new lender. So that is considered as an extortionate transaction. Section 66 जो आता है आपका, Section 66 में आता है, Section 66 covers everything. जो मैंने ऊपर आपके साथ स्कोप डिस्कस करा, इट कवर्स एवरीथिंग व्हाट इज फ्रॉडलेंट ट्रांजैक्शन. इसमें कोई स्कोप डिफाइंड नहीं है एज पर आईबीए, सॉरी आईबीए कह रहा हूं मैं, इंसॉल्वेंसी आईबीबीआई कोड, आईबीसी कोड. देयर इज नो स्कोप दैट हैज बीन डिफाइंड अंडर सेक्शन 66. इट कवर्स एवरीथिंग, एनी मिसरिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स, एनी मैलिफाइड इंटेंशन, एनीथिंग इन द बैलेंस शीट और द बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स which you find is not correct, it comes under fraudulent transaction if it is an intentional mistake. So you have to verify each and everything. Fraudulent transactions जो है extortionate होता है, undervalued, preferential. This is generally the scope given by RP under 4 sections. RP आपको इसके अलावा भी scope दे सकते हैं, जो जैसे मैंने ऊपर जो आपको scope बताया बैंक्स का, that scope can also be given by RP in addition to this 4 sections. But insolvency में 4 sections तो compulsory है ही है, period defined नहीं है. So this is generally हमारा जो scope होता है transaction audit के लिए. This is a brief about that. सर हम क्वेश्चन ले लेते हैं, अगर कोई क्वेश्चन है तो we can take that questions.
Yes sir, there is a question.
Yeah.
Banks in its scope letter that we have to clearly classified whether borrower account is fraud or not. Rahul sir.
सर जनरली मैंने आपको बताया ना, अब क्या है, आईबीए ने एक लेटर इशू करा था जून 18 में, जिसके कारण आपको डिस्क्लोज कर अकाउंट में बी क्लासिफाइड एज फ्रॉड एज पर आरबीआई गाइडलाइंस. अगर आप आरबीआई का मास्टर सर्कुलर पढ़ेंगे, जुलाई 19 का है सर्कुलर, 1 जुलाई 19 का, दे हैव डिफाइंड व्हाट इज फ्रॉड, व्हाट इज डाइवर्जन एंड व्हाट इज साइफनिंग. गिविंग रेफरेंस ऑफ दैट सर्कुलर अंडर व्हिच क्लॉज द बोरोअर इज फॉलोइंग, यू हैव टू गिव द रेफरेंस ऑफ दैट क्लॉज एंड देन यू हैव टू राइट कि भी इन दिस क्लॉज द बोरोअर इज फॉलोइंग. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन क्या है सर?
सर एक ही है,
एक सेक्शन है सर, सेक्शन 43 ऑफ आईबीसी कोड है सर.
क्वेश्चन.
हाँ जी बताइए.
हाँ यस सर, आई हैव अ डिफरेंट क्वेश्चन कि सर the fees of such assignments are being decided by the bank or we have to give the quotation to the bank sir?
No quotation sir, it is done on tendering basis whereby banks 3-4 फर्मों से मंगा लेता है जो उनके बॉम्बे में है या जो भी है, या फिर बैंक अपने आप भी डिसाइड कर लेता है. हैव दैट एक्सपीरियंस. जैसे अगर मैं हूँ, मैं 100 से ऊपर ऑडिट कर चुका हूँ, तो बैंक्स मेरे बायोडाटा के बेसिस पे ही, कंसीडरिंग माय एक्सपीरियंस एंड माय नॉलेज इन द सब्जेक्ट, they give me work without any quotation कि साहब हम आपको ये फीस देंगे, please do the work. Either they can do it that way or they can do it considering the tendering basis. Quotation मंगाएगा आपसे सर वो मेल पे.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, fine enough, sir.
हाँ जी, हाँ जी.
Yeah, Amish?
Yes, Rahul sir.
Amish?
हाँ जी, हाँ जी सर.
We are ending the session of yours now because again you have to
Yes,
go
sir.
for some other session.
Yeah.
It was a very sir nice session and a marathon session, and you had covered all the things what a auditor should take while giving the reports to the banker. I request
Yes, sir.
CA Ishita Veera to give the formal vote of thanks to today's speaker.
Thank you, Amish. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
On behalf of Andheri Oshiwara Study Circle, I thanks today's speaker for the immense knowledge that he has shared with us. It was a great learning experience, not only in forensic audit, but it can also be applied in normal auditing also, though not in bloodhound way, but it has enhanced our knowledge. Thank you so much.
Welcome, welcome.
Rahul sir, you can share me the PPT. आपके जो
Yeah, I'll mail it to you, sir.
You mail me.
Yes, sir, I'll mail it to you, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you, sir, for coming on Sunday and sharing your insight.
No,
Sir,
sir,
thank you
thank you
very
very
much,
Session.
Rahul ji.
I'm very
Thank you, sir.
मुझे लगा था हम लोग बुलेट ट्रेन में सवार ऐसा ऐसा है पूरा आपका जर्नी गए.
नहीं सर, अब एक्चुअली क्या टाइम पीरियड मैं जनरली ना मेरा सेशन 2-2.5 घंटे का होता है, तो इसलिए आज 1 घंटे का था, तो मेरे को सारी चीजें कवर करनी थी, इसलिए थोड़ा बुलेट ट्रेन था सर, और कुछ नहीं.
मतलब very well
Yes, sir,
covered.
but you are dynamic, sir. Sir, you are dynamic, and the knowledge which you possess is, sir, 100% of super.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'll be eager to take any further session. It will be detailed session. मैं पूरा रिपोर्ट राइटिंग के बारे में भी डिस्कस करूंगा. We'll surely I'll discuss with Amish ji, and we'll take a detailed session later on, sir.
Rahul sir, off the record अभी जब भी फिजिकल मीटिंग होगा सर, मेरी तरफ से आपको इनविटेशन श्योर है.
बिल्कुल सर, बिल्कुल सर. I'll come sure sir.
Next
Okay,
test
sir.
आपको
I'll take a leave, sir.
दीपक को पकड़ना पड़ेगा. मार्च के बाद आपको दीपक को पकड़ना पड़ेगा सर.
बिल्कुल सर. ठीक है सर. I'll take a leave, sir. Okay,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I welcome you once again, all of you, for today's second topic of our meeting. The topic is importance of forensic accounting and fraud detection for a chartered accountants. This will be taken by one of the dynamic speaker, CA Mukul Agarwal sir ji. I request CA Ishita Visaria to kindly give the brief introduction of today's speakers.
Thank you, Amish. On behalf of Andheri Oshiwara Circle, I welcome CA Mukul Agarwal. And the brief intro is, he's a managing partner at J. Mandal and Company. His educational qualification includes BCom, CA, MBA, CFIP, CHFI. He is a member of our esteemed Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and also member of International Institute of Certified Forensic Investigational Professional. He has been awarded MSAB Excellence Award from Indian government for contribution in forensic and fraud investigation, member of Global Audit Committee of Intact International, which is world 15th largest association of independent accounting firms. He has completed a certificate course on forensic accounting and fraud detection from ICI. He is a visiting faculty with Comptroller and Auditor General of India on IFRS. He is visiting faculty with CBI on banking frauds and forensic accounting. He is a member of National Council on Corporate Fraud and International Association on Internal Audit of ASOCAM. Visiting faculty with Institute of Corporate Affairs on corporate frauds. He is also visiting faculty with Board of Studies ICI and ICSI on forensic audits. He is an independent director on board of Bright Solar Renewable Energy Private Limited, which is Mahindra and Mahindra Group company. His previous experiences include of research group of ICI on IFRS, and he has also delivered various seminars on IFRS, forensic, etc. with ICI. He was also the manager at Ernst & Young Global for infrastructure sector from January 2004 till October 2009. Currently, he is also involved in preparing solutions for the companies using artificial intelligence and deep learning. He has his own digital forensic lab in Delhi. He had completed his articleship with SS Kothari Mehta and Company. I welcome you, sir. You may start the session.
Thanks, Ishita ji, and thanks Amish ji and the whole team for inviting me here to share my opinions on forensic audit. First, I would like to give my apology for being late for around 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes, due to some computer network issues, which we are facing. We are facing in Delhi. I don't know about Mumbai, whether the network issues are there in Mumbai or not. Right. So before starting, I would just like to say that Amish, what we have covered, Rahul has given a presentation before on forensic audit and transactional audit. So what exactly he has covered so that I can take it forward from there up.
He had covered on the fraud detection methods and what are the frauds, how we can identify the frauds, what are the intention of the borrowers. Whole that on the some bullet points were there. He had covered the things.
Okay, perfect. So I would just start, whenever I say forensic, I would just start that Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's needs, but not every man's greeds. So given by Mahatma Gandhi, said by Mahatma Gandhi. So when I say forensic audit today, and we all are chartered accountants, we are having the traditional practice of ours was tax practice. So tax being in now in faceless assessments and faceless appeals. So in my opinion, again, it is just my opinion. Everybody has their own opinion that the tax practice per se has come to a saturation level. So for chartered accountants, you can say that now we have to venture out in the new avenues. We have to see the new avenues and go ahead with that. So forensic audit is the field, according to me, where as chartered accountants we can give a very good value add, and we can succeed all as well. The basic reason in forensic audit that chartered accountants can succeed is, and where we take a edge from MBAs. Because when I became a chartered accountant way back in 2003, I was told that the presentation of MBA is much better than chartered accountant and they are much more successful. But in this particular field, maybe their presentation is better, MBA's presentation better, which I would not say now, because recently I checked the papers and the presentations of the paper presenters of our CA students and chartered accountants. And I can say that we chartered accountants are now, if not above, then not less than MBAs as well on the presentation part. But where we take the edge from them is that the understanding of the nitty-gritties of the business, understanding of the nitty-gritties and the way of working of the business. We are much well prepared in our articleship, during our articleship and during our working than the MBAs. So since we know the nitty-gritties, so we are the best persons to find out the frauds, which Rahul must have taken. So I would just give a little brief about the frauds, about the sections which this is a ACFE survey results on frauds, which says that 5% of the annual turnover is organization losing due to the result of fraud. So wherever there is a saturation level, if as a chartered accountant we can value it to the industry by saving this 5% to a certain extent, then we are doing a very good work, serving our industry in a very good way, serving our economy in a very good way. In these frauds, the major frauds is financial statement frauds, which is occurring less than 10% of the cases, but with the median loss of $954,000. So the percentage of cases in the overall fraud spectrum of financial statement fraud is very less, which is less than 10%, but the loss due to this frauds is very high. So $954,000 is a very big amount, average median loss for the fraud. So if we can help them in recovering this, or we can prevent this fraud, then we are doing a good work. I think I would just give a brief about the forensic audit and the factors contributing to fraud, which Rahul must have covered. First, I would just start with a practical case study, which I was doing, we have just completed recently, that how the fraudster thinks and how the management thinks. Because as a management as well, I would say in India, they are still not very much tuned to the fact that fraud can happen. And if fraud happens, what they should do. So that is a very big gap between the management understanding that the fraud happens and what would happen after that. I would give an example. There is a big logistic company which is a joint venture between a foreign company and an Indian company. And there was a fraud which happened in the stationery, in the procurement of stationery for the office. So they had many offices. So the fraud which I am referring to happened in the procurement of stationery in their head office. So head office, there was a fraud which happened. A person, let's take it, his name is, for example, Mr. A. What Mr. A did is that he was a person who was sitting as he was a receptionist, and he was also given the additional authority or responsibility of procuring the stationery, specifically the rims, paper rims, pens, staplers, stapler pins, and etc. for the office. Now, what he did, what was the process? I would just brief about the little bit about the process. That he used to get the quotations from the vendors. He used to finalize the quotation, get it approved by the admin head, and then procure the items. After that, get the payment done to the vendors. Now, here you can see that there was no delegation of authority. That is one part. There was no delegation, and everything was limited to one person. So he has all the opportunity to do a fraud. Now, what this guy did is that he procured paper rims. Now, the rims were procured in a logistic company, and the rims were like, for example, 10 lakh worth of rims were procured, right? Now, 10 lakh worth of rims were procured. The payment was done by the accounting team. Now, here the red flag which comes up is why 10 lakh, why not anybody from the accounting team questioned it, that why 10 lakh worth of rims were procured when the average procurement of the rims should have been very less, or they should have at least investigated. In this, what happened that this guy with the vendor did a fraud, that the vendor was billing to the company of around 15 lakhs, out of which the 10 lakh worth of bills were booked by the company in their books, and they paid 6 lakhs amount of, this is the hypothetical numbers which I have taken, 6 lakhs amount of bills, they have already paid it. So they paid for the 6 lakh amount was already paid. When one day what happened, that person came to their godown or their warehouse and said that I have to take the rims. He was not having any paper. The security guard asked him, where is the paper? Where is the authority letter that you can take the rims, which he was not having. And from there, the question mark arised that what these rims were there and how this happened. The company called us to investigate that what fraud happened and how it happened. So the accounting team, which was working with us, which was basically the spoke of the company, he told us that Mukul, there was a fraud. We have already investigated it. 15 lakh worth of invoices were booked in our company's name. 10 lakh we have already taken on records. 5 lakh we didn't knew, and now we are also not concerned because this 5 lakh, the person, Mr. A, has already paid from his account to the vendor. So vendor is concerned about that 3 to 4 lakh rupees only. So he said that now these 3-4 lakhs which are outstanding, the vendor is creating an issue, and he is suing us for this amount. So Mukul, you just check it out and what has happened. So when I said that fine, 6 lakhs you have paid, what I did in that office, or we took the list of all the printers, all the photocopiers, we envisaged, we calculated the total amount of printouts taken from all these printers and photocopiers, which we can easily take because every photocopier and printer has the record in it. So we took all the details and we calculated. We said the number of rims which you have booked, that is also very high, because the actual number of rims or the actual worth of paper rims which was utilized in the period in which the fraud has happened is somewhere around 1 lakh to 1.5 lakhs. So where the rest of the rims, that is one part. Then I said that why that 5 lakh rupees which the Mr. A got it billed in the company's name, but he has paid from his own pocket. Well, why we are not questioning that? Then that accountant said that no, it's absolutely fine, and we are not concerned with that because that 5 lakh is not, we are not paid it, and we are not even paying it, and vendor has not even claimed from us. So it has paid by Mr. A. So in forensic, what normally is why I took this particular case is that when we saw this case, when the accounting guys, the spoke told us, we said, no, fine, then it must be this case only and nothing has happened. So I would just make little bit interactive. Would you guys or anybody has any doubt that something more can happen to it?
Sir, regarding what?
10 lakh worth of rims were booked in the company's records. 6 lakh, they have already paid it out. 4 lakh they have to pay, which is standing in their books. When they take the ledger from the vendor, the company's ledger, it showed that 15 lakh was invoiced in the company's name, which 5 lakh already Mr. A paid it back, paid the amount to the vendor. So should we be concerned about that 5 lakh or not? Just a second. Now, I will
Yes,
tell you
yes.
just one thing. In this case, what that spoke, the accounting guy was doing was, he was saying, no, we are not concerned because company is not paying it, so it is not a loss to the company. So that was the reason they are saying. Now, question number 1, the red flag. I would take in this the red flag first. The GST was billed to the company, right? Being a logistic company, they cannot take the input of the GST. But at the same time, the accounting person should have known that 15 lakh worth of invoice has been raised. They cannot take the input credit, absolutely fine. But when they are filing their own GST, they should have seen that. Why they have not seen? Second, the number of rims they are purchasing every week, they are purchasing a decent amount of rims. So is it possible that the accounting person who is paying, one person is paying for that whole period? Is it possible that the accounting person who is paying, there is no red flag, there is no doubt raised in his mind that why this every week we are procuring the rims where it is not required? Third, if there is a doubt, why he has not escalated that doubt to the head of the department, to the head of the office, even with the admin? Third. Now, what happened in this case, that we started this particular investigation, and for 15-20 days it was going on like that. No, it is not required. 5 lakh were not required. Now the question which was coming in our mind was, for example, that person has taken a 5 lakh worth of rims, and he must have sold that in the open market. Now, if 5 lakh worth of rims he has taken, first in that 5 lakh the GST is there, which the other person to whom he is selling the rims cannot take the credit. So it is a cost to that guy, right? In that 5 lakh, what would have been the actual cost of the rims to him? It must be somewhere around, let's take a hypothetical number, 4 lakh rupees. Now in 4 lakh rupees, he has procured the rims. If he is selling to some wholesale guy or anybody else, then he has to, that guy would not take in 4 lakh, because 4 lakh would have been the market value. He would have, he should have taken that in 3.3 lakh or 3.4 lakhs, where he also earned the margin and when he sell it out, right? Now, let's say in 3.4 lakh, that guy has purchased the rims from this Mr. A. And this Mr. A has already paid 5 lakh rupees back to the vendor. So there is a gap of 1.6 lakh rupees. The actual numbers are very high. I'm just saying this hypothetical numbers. 1.6 lakh rupees is the amount which he has paid from his own pocket, right? Now, from where is this 1.6 lakh rupees is coming? Now, let's take a person who is a receptionist, who is working in an office and just as a receptionist. His salary must have been 15,000 rupees per month. Let's be very honest, or very much, we can say that this guy is very old guy, so he must be having a salary of around 25,000 rupees. A 25,000 bucks earning guy has to pay 1.6 lakh from his own pocket. Is it possible? That was the question raised. Now the company said everything is in that company, basically SAP was implemented. Now what happened, what exactly the fraud happened was, see, this was the red flags which we asked the management straight away, and we even bypassed the spoke because we were not having any reliability on the spoke as well. So what actually happened, which we found out, was that the spoke himself and the person who was paying from the accounts team all the payments, they were also involved. And what exactly the fraud was? The fraud was that they had created, over the years, they have created dummy vendors. They have made the payment to dummy vendors. They have booked the dummy bills. Now the cash generated from that amount, what they said, that let's do a small fraud, or try to look like a small fraud, so that everybody's importance, everybody's mind is diverted to that fraud. So basically, he wanted to avoid the bigger fraud to be detected, and for that he created a smaller fraud. And this 1.6 lakh was basically paid by him to that Mr. A in cash, and that Mr. A deposited that 1.6 lakh in his account and paid it to the vendor. So when we started with it, we were told there is a fraud of around 4 lakh is which we have not paid, and out of 6 lakh, 1 lakh or 2 lakh is the total amount of stationery we would have used. So that 4 lakh plus 4 lakh, 8 lakh is the frauds amount. That was what we were engaged, we were being given the work, that to prepare a audit report, forensic audit report, so that is admissible in the court of law, and we that company can give it to the state police, as well as it can be presented in the court of law to take that Mr. A to the court, right? But when this whole thing opened in front of us, and then the management again said that you have raised the red flag, now investigate that. What we found out, the total amount of dummy vendors created as well as the dummy payments made was somewhere around 80 to 90 lakhs. So 90 lakhs worth of fraud. To avoid that fraud, to just let it pass through, the whole thing was made, so that the fraud amount is not 80 lakhs, it is just 4 lakhs. And with 4 lakhs, the company would also not take very harsh action, and the person would be through. So what I want to say in forensic audit is, we, for whatever reason or scope of work we are going to the company, we should not be limited to that. We should keep our eyes and ears open, because the probability of anything else happening or some other objective is very high. So if in this particular case, we would have just said, no, we are only concerned with the 8 lakhs, we are not concerned with that 5 lakhs. So we would not have been able to detect the bigger fraud, or our mind would not have raised the red flags for that. So in forensic audit, the basic premise is whatever way you are going, keep your eyes and ears open and you can do it. Second, when I said that the MBAs, we have an edge over the MBAs in this field is, if I take this particular case itself, here you can say that if MBA would have been there, he would not have understood the GST aspects and the red flags aspects and why this amount has been given this way. CAs are in a much better position to do that. So that is the area where we can work a lot, and the future is very bright, according to me. Right now, again, I would take one more case study. Now that pertains to Mumbai. Right, we investigated one case, I think 4 years back, or 4.5 years back in Mumbai. This particular relates to one jewelry group, a very big jewelry group. What happened in that particular case was, as we all know, that all the jewelry groups which are having their own showrooms, no, those are exclusive showrooms. And now to promote their sales, what they usually did is that the customer who wants to own a jewelry, he would pay the 11 installments, and the 12th installment would be paid by the company, and the jewelry would be bought by that person. So that one installment would be paid by the company. Now the question comes from where that one installment amount would be coming. Now that one installment amount would be coming from the salesperson's commission, because in these kind of sales, the salesperson commission is not given, or if given, would be given at a very lower percentage, if there is a percentage or very low amount. So the difference which the company saves is being contributed as one installment in that 12 installments. So in this particular case, which I'm referring, what happened is that the salesperson, just to earn his commission, right? To earn his commission, he did a fraud. Now we say that if he has to earn his commission, the fraud amount would be very less, because the fraud amount depends. If it's a higher management involvement, the fraud amount would be very high. And if it is a lower level or a middle level in management involved, the fraud amount would be to some few lakhs or few crores. And if it is a higher level, then the fraud amount would be very high, right? Now, in this case, what happened that at the start, how the company came to know that they were being given in every showroom, they had a POS. So whenever a customer comes and he gives his one installment, because monthly installment has to be given in this case. So whenever the person comes and gives one installment, he's given a receipt and that's it. And after 11 months, he comes back and takes the jewelry. Right now, what that particular salesperson was doing, what they did is that, for example, 11 or 12 customers have come in a month, and they have given a one installment. Now, for them it is one installment, but for the company received 11 installment or 12 installments. So which is the total amount of the jewelry. Now, what this guy, the whole fraud was that they started doing it, and they booked it as a normal sale on which the sales commission was given and the stock was out of the books. This thing came into the notice of the higher management, that is the MD of that particular franchisee company, not of the group, of the franchisee company which was giving franchises. Now, when he came to know, and he said that this fraud is happening, instead of catching hold of that guy, he came up with his own idea of doing a fraud. what he did, since he has caught hold of that guy, now he's just blackmailed that guy. That now what I would say, you have to do that way. Then whole state, again, because this was going on in the whole state. The whole state, what he did, he created one more company, right, in his name, separate company, and that company basically started selling the same jewelry to the showrooms. Now, since the sales people were already with him, the franchisee came with him, and now the exclusive showroom. Now, if today I go to Tanishq or I go to Kalyani or Kalyan Jewelers or I go to any other jewelers, once I enter their showroom, as a layman, as a customer, I would never doubt that the jewelry which I am buying is of that particular brand or not, because I would always say that I have bought from Kalyan Jewelers, I have bought from Gitanjali, I have bought from Tanishq, and this jewelry belongs to them. What was happening in that case, that the customer was entering in the showrooms, but the jewelry which they were buying, they were not buying of the company, but they were buying of the company which was created by the MD of the franchisee company. Right. Now, whole expenses of the showroom borne by the company, sales commission given by the company, but the jewelry is being sold of the MD's company. So the whole fraud was going on. Right. How we caught hold of is that the customers who paid 11 installment and they were not given the jewelry, then they approached the corporate office and they filed an FIR and everything started up. Then it came to the notice of the main management, the group's management, and they said, let's investigate that. We started investigating. How we started, I would just take it very practically, how we started. We were told that in this particular state, in this case, I can just name the state, it is Gujarat. So we were told that in this particular state, the fraud has happened and we have got these complaints. So I said, fine. First thing which our team took is the agreements with the franchises, right? All the agreements of all the franchisee of that state, the personal files of all the sales team of that state, because all the sales team were on their rolls, it's the company's rolls only. So these two things were taken. And when we started investigating, we came to know that these all franchisee agreements were tilted toward the franchises instead of franchisor. See, today as a chartered accountant, we understand that wherever there is a big company who's signs a contract, the contract is of a standard nature, and it's always in favor of the company than in favor of the franchisee or the franchisee. So again, there was a red flag that if this particular agreement is in favor of the franchisee, how come this agreement has been signed by this big company? The company which I am saying is the turnover is somewhere around 10,000 crore or 15,000 crore kind of a thing. So there was a red flag that how can this 10,000 crore company signing a contract in favor of the franchisee, which is not possible. So what we did, we asked for another franchisee agreement from any other state just to cross-check it. When we cross-checked, we said no, this particular franchisee is in the favor of the franchisor, the franchisee, and in other states it was in the favor of the company. So we were our first doubt was cleared that there is something fishy in it, a big fishy. Then we started checking the whole process, who signs it, who approves it. Now, who has approved this particular franchisee agreement and then signed it? Now, in this case, it was signed by the MD of that franchisee company. If MD of the franchisee company is signing, how come he has not looked into this particular factors? It is not possible that today I'm an MD and somebody brings the papers and without even looking at the papers, I just sign it out on the dotted lines. I would just have a look and get a feel, or maybe somebody else, maybe head of the legal team or head of the franchisee team who must have signed it. And then over and above their sign, I am signing it. So that is also possible. So we took the So we particularly took that particular agreements and the process. Now, in this case, our doubt started with the regional sales team. The regional sales team at the head of the Gujarat sales team. First, then we said he's involved, fine, because all the agreements were there. But again, the question was why those agreements signed by the MD? When we checked with the MD, because as a forensic auditor, we have the authority to even cross question or even take an interview of any person. So when we checked with an MD, that guy said that, sir, the scenario is I have signed on the legal's head signature. Absolutely fine. So he has all the right in the world to say that he can sign on the legal head's signature on the over and above the legal head signature. So we checked with the legal head. Legal head said that, sir, these are the agreements which I raised a doubt, but everybody said it's fine and it was a special case, so it is signed. Now, as a forensic auditor, fine, we can say legal head is involved, but the whole loop, the whole circle is not closed. Legal head is involved, very clear from this particular example. The regional sales head is involved, fine, but we were not able to catch hold of the MD. But somewhere we had a mindset that the MD is also involved, but we were not able to catch hold of him. We then the next step which we took in this particular case was we send a decoy customer to the franchises because we already told the company don't take any action against the regional sales team. Let us investigate it. See, having a doubt is one thing, but proving it in the court of law is totally different. Because the judge sitting in the court of law would only look at the documents, particular documents, and then they would understand and then they would give a thing. So in forensic, the whole idea is to prove in the court of law. As I tell you, in SFIO, the Serious Fraud Investigation Office, I'm just diverting a little bit, just a simple line. SFIO is also empaneling the forensic auditors for doing the forensic audit or special audit of various investigations being carried over by them. The whole premise of the special audit is what that SFIO team in Delhi has told us, or the objective is they can investigate, very fine. They have the team, they have the people, they can investigate, they can get all the data. They need our help, the chartered accountants' help, just to prepare the documentation in such a way that it is being admissible in the court of law. So investigation is one part, getting the evidence is other part, and getting that evidence approved or according to the court of law is third part. So this whole three should be completed by a forensic auditor, right? Which is very critical. No, again, coming back to this case, what we did in this case is, one, we came to know regional sales. We sent the decoy customer. Decoy customer said that, sir, this is the case and I want 11 months jewelry and all this stuff. So why we send him, he also had the spy camera so that he can understand the behaviors of this. We came to know that the sales guy was not promoting that, in fact was saying, sir, not required, please come, sir, yeah, seedha le lijiye and do it, take it straight away, pay it. I would give it this discount and that discount. And the discount which he was giving was somewhere around 30%, 40%. Then we checked with the company, have you authorized somebody to give this one discount? He said no. Right. We took the jewelry, we purchased the jewelry from the company. That was paid by the company itself, but we purchased the jewelry. We came to know that the jewelry didn't belong to the company at all. That jewelry was not belonging to the company. That was where, again, the second red flag. Then from where that jewelry came. Then we raided that particular showroom and we came to know there were two POS. The two POS, one POS was belonging to the company, the other POS was not belonging to the company. Now, in that case, what was happening is that the company also sent the internal auditors time to time to the franchisees' showrooms. the regional sales team came to know that the auditors are going. So they used to tell the franchisee that now the auditors are coming tomorrow or in this week. So take the POS and use the POS of the company only, and remove the other POS. So that's how the whole fraud was going on. Right. So from now, when we invested the other company, from where the other company was coming, we took over we owned their laptops and the desktops of that franchisee showroom. We can know that it was coming from some other company. When we checked the other company details and we investigate about that company, that company was belonging to one of the relative of the MD of the franchisee company. Now, fine. When we cross over to the MD, when we checked with the MD, cross questioned the MD, he said, I don't know. I'm not involved. Maybe that guy has done, or with the regional sales head, he in connivance with the regional sales head, he has done it, but I don't know it. Right. Now, in this case, I would just ask you guys, what should have been done? We have found out first that there was a company which was giving it. The regional sales team has also accepted it afterwards. Franchisee has accepted it. Now, what should have been done? Where we should have closed there because we have got the evidence, or we should have gone ahead. I understand this is Sunday, but I would anybody listening to me?
Yes, sir.
Sir, in this case, this is a very peculiar
Yes,
case
sir.
happened. A very interesting case. I'm just taking the cases. Sir, in this case, what happened? In this particular case, what happened that the company management told us, you have done it, and we have the group chairman of that group, jewelry group. He said, I have a full trust over the MD of the company, not required. His relative has done, we would take that relative to behind the bars, and our work would be over. When we said, no, sir, it doesn't look like that, something is fishy, we started investigating it. We came to know that MD is involved. Now, MD is involved is fine, but from where can we see? One thing is evidence we have got. MD is involved to a certain extent, we can understand, but we cannot close it because we have to prove in the court of law. I cannot go in the court and say that MD is involved just for the sake of it. Then we started doing the social profiling of the whole employees which we thought are involved in this fraud. What is social profiling? Social profiling is, today we are in digital world, so we leave traces everywhere over the internet. So Facebook, you have LinkedIn, Instagram, Tinder, or any other app which you are using. We used to investigate that in our cases, and from the Facebook we were able to crack this case. In this particular case, what we did is the regional sales head and the MD belong to one particular state or one particular city. Second, they had the relation, they were related as well to certain, there was a long relation, but they were related. Third, the regional sales head's wife purchased a property in Mumbai. And in during the housewarming, we used to put a photograph that housewarming is there, and our friends used to congratulate that congrats Amish ji, congrats Deepak ji that you have purchased a property. In that particular case, in Facebook post, what was happening is everybody was congratulating Mrs. this, or in this case, I say Mrs. A. In one of the post, it was congratulations Mrs. A and Mrs. B. That Mrs. B was wife of MD of that franchisee company. So that just one post. And the moment that post was in front of us and we cross-questioned and we even asked them to call your wives to the office or to the, in this case, EOW Mumbai was investigating and we were helping them out. When we asked them to come to EOW Mumbai, then the MD as well as the regional sales head, everybody broke down and they told the whole of this fraud, how this whole happened. So again, when you are going in forensic, it is a very peculiar thing. What you are seeing is one part, but what you have been shown is other part. It is quite possible that what you are seeing is what you have been shown, and there is something behind that curtain as well. So keep your eyes and ears open, right? So I would just, with these two cases, practical aspects I have taken, I would just take few things which is very important. Fraud, I think these sections Rahul must have covered this particular fraud sections.
Amish, your voice is mute. Amish.
Sir, this is not covered.
Okay, I will just take you through. On Sunday, I will not take a lot of your time. See, this whole forensic thing came into prominence by the Companies Act 2013. In this Companies Act 2013, what the fraud has been said, what is the definition of the fraud? It is in relation to affairs of the company or any body corporate, includes any act, omission, concealment of any fact, or abuse of position committed by any person to gain undue advantage from or injure the interest of the company or its shareholders or its creditors or any other person, whether or not there is any wrongful gain or wrongful loss. See, the basic thing which we have to understand in this forensic field is, it is not important whether that person has gained undue advantage or not, monetary or non-monetary. The basic thing which we should understand whether the intent to deceive was there or not. If the intent is there, irrespective of the fact whether that person has been able to gain the advantage or gain the profit or loss, it doesn't matter as per the as per Companies Act. So if there is an intent, then that is a fraud. That intent is a fraud. Now, what as per section 447 is, it is for the KMPs of the company. It is the key management person of the company where the fraud has happened and they are involved. Imprisonment between 6 months to 10 years and fine up to 3 times of the amount involved in the fraud. So that is the penalty on the KMPs. Now let's come over to the auditors. This is covered under section 143(12) of the Companies Act, that if an auditor of the company, now in this case the auditor can be internal auditor as well as the statutory auditor, so it is not limited to statutory auditor only, in the course of the performance of his duties as an auditor, has reason to believe that an offense involving fraud is being or has been committed against the company by officers and employees of the company, he shall immediately report the matter to the central government. So it is specifically the central government which he has to report. Otherwise, in 60 days. Otherwise, the fine would be from 1 lakh to 25 lakhs. Can amount to 1 lakh 25 lakhs. This is irrespective of the fees. Fees can be even 25,000. Then also the fine can be 1 lakh to 25 lakh. So be very careful whenever you are signing it. Now there is one question from Aditya ji. In case multiple balance sheets are shared to and fro between clients and auditors, then can old version balance sheet could also be taken for investing frauds? Yes, definitely. In income tax cases, in income tax rates, these are being taken. Very categorically, yes. Also, if draft reports are shared with clients on their emails, which contains qualifications, but final report does not or could be taken for fraud investigation, yes, definitely can be taken. So wherever I go or wherever I take a lecture, I always say, please, as a chartered accountant, don't get the balance sheet or prepare the balance sheet in your office, in your laptops, because it is not your work. Again, there are other ways by which you can take the help and you can get these things done, which I understand as a chartered accountant we are doing it, but yes, there are ways you can mitigate this risk. So be very careful. Even in GST, what is happening is that GST returns we are filing it, but as a chartered, we are not very much, we have not signed engagement letters very specifically. What in a few GST fraud cases, the department has done, the department calls the promoter and they said you have not filed the GST returns correctly and you have done a fraud. You know what the promoter has said in front of the department? I don't know what has been filed. It is the CA who has filed it. He has my DSC. Check with him. Now the CA has been called. He has been asked the reason. When he said that I'm only filing it, I have not even checked the data. Nobody is listening to him because he has not signed the engagement letter. Be very specific, very careful. You have to sign the engagement letters, which clearly mentions that our scope of work is only limited to filing it. We are not checking it. We are not authorized to check the data. We are not checking it. We are only checking the mathematical calculations. If we are not doing that, GST frauds are becoming big and the department is becoming very serious. As a chartered accountant, we would be in a big issue, right? I think this fraud triangle must have been taken. I would just move ahead on this part. I would take over to the digital forensic. Just a second. That would be, I think, much more interesting for you as of today. So that on Sunday, if you are viewing it, giving some time, so you should get a value add on it. Just give me a second. Now, I will just come over to various thumb rules for forensic accountant. Fraud cannot be done by a single person. As I told you the examples, fraud cannot be done by a single person. So this example is absolutely fine with it. Fraud can also penetrate through gunpowder effect. Now, in this case, I would just brief a small fraud which has happened in a company. Now, if you go to some FMCG company or any company, how many of us actually check the transport bills or the freight documents? Now, if a company is sending, is transporting various products through the freight, and every day you are getting one document and 5 documents or 6 documents. So we don't check all the documents. We say it is normally going on. We see the summary, we see the voucher, we just, and that also is random vouching, and we just sign it off. In this case, I would say on randomly check the freight also. What has happened in one of the cases, that this company was basically transporting the aerial work platforms, right? So they used to take the transporter help to basically send the aerial work platforms. These are like cranes. The machines are like cranes. So every day 5 or 6 machines were being sent to some other locations. So every day you had a freight receipt. Normally what your team used to do, that in this case we were the statutory auditors. Normally what the team used to do is, this is the summary. From summary we used to see the voucher and get all the approvals done and payment is done. So our vouching is done. Once we said, yeah, let's check the these pink color slips, because in this case which I'm particularly referring, there were pink color slips. Somewhere it must be yellow color slips or whatever. The color can be different. So in this case, what happened, that in pink color slips, I said to my team, take the whole pink color slips and match it with the summary. What we found out, that few of the pink color slips were missing, few were duplicates. So the duplicate amount was added in the summary, right, with some other number. Once we came to know about this, we started digging in detail, and the amount in each freight it would be 10,000 or 8,000 or something, the one freight receipt. So we could have left that, but then we said, we discussed with the management, and management gave us the authority that you check whole year, then go ahead. We checked whole year. In whole year, the amount of fraud done was somewhere around 70 lakhs. And we checked over the period of around 6-7 years, because the person who was doing it, he was 6-7 years old in the company. The amount went up to 3.5 to 4.5 crores. So what I want to say, fraud can also penetrate through gunpowder effect. If at the amount of 10,000, at the level of 10,000, I would have rejected that, then we would not have come to this much of fraud of 4.5 crores. So fraud can also penetrate through gunpowder effect. And which I was emphasizing, while checking fraud, the whole circle should be complete. So the circle has to be complete. Objective, where the amount has gone and everything. And if it is not complete, then in your forensic report, the limitation should be there. Very specific limitation should be there. Be very careful. Our report writing is not copy and paste in forensic. It is, each report is different with each scope of work. Now, these are the standards which have been issued by our institute. Sorry, where has it gone? Okay. So forensic standards have been issued by the institute. So I would not take that right now. I would just go on digital forensic part. Deepak ji, I have time. Hello?
Sir, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, 5 to
Perfect.
10 minutes you can take.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. I would just take 10 minutes only on this digital forensic.
Okay.
See, I am taking the digital forensic because as chartered accountant, we are dealing with the data. In income tax rates, in GST rates, or in any other investigations, this becomes very critical. Now in laptop, or for example, the hard disk, if we say that we have formatted the hard disk and the data can be not be retrieved, we are living in a fool's paradise. In hard disk, all the deleted data can also be retrieved. When, like my team goes with income tax department on raids, when our team goes in the raids, we have the hardware and the softwares which retrieves the deleted data as well. So there is no data which cannot be retrieved from the hard disk or the mobile, right? So be very careful doing anything. If you have a data on your laptop, if you have data on your mobile, which is not correct, be very careful, because all the deleted data can also be retrieved. So there is no option of avoiding the data. Digital forensic world covers disk forensic, which is hard disk forensic. It can be desktop, it can be laptop, it can be server or anything. Then comes the mobile forensics. All your mobiles can be easily, all the data can be retrieved from the mobiles, because mobiles as well has now become computers. So all the data is easily retrievable. WhatsApp data is also retrievable. WhatsApp data is retrievable easily. Be careful with that. Network forensic is basically your all the network checking, which includes penetration testing, which includes vulnerability assessments. Then email forensic. In email forensic, keyword search can happen and all the emails can be checked. So this is the digital forensic world. So whatever you are doing, as there was one question about whether an investigation team can take the balance sheets. Yes, they can take the balance sheets. They can take the draft balance sheets as well if required. It's quite possible. In one of the cases, I will tell you what happened. There was a raid. This particular case happened in Bangalore. There was a raid by the GST department over one of the companies, right? Now, what they found out in that company premises is one part. In company premises, they came over to a voucher which said that 1 week back, the company has sold off around 15 laptops to one of the vendor. So I'm not going into the process. One vendor was selected, and that vendor, the 15 laptops were given. Now what the department did, they said, let's give it a try. And they went to the vendor and said, give us the laptops which you have purchased. Now the vendor told that they have sold off few laptops. So the department said, okay, whatever the rest laptop, if you have 1 or 2 or 3 laptops also, give it to us. The vendor gave the laptop to the department, and the department did the disk forensic. They tried to retrieve the data. Now what the company IT said, we have formatted it, and so there's no issue. But the fact was the data was retrieved from the laptop, which were very confidential data, and from that data the assessment was done and the addition was made, and with the penalty and everything. So by this example, what I want to say is, if you are giving your laptop to your juniors as well, So a simple formatting is not the solution. Be very careful with the data, because since it is a digital world, the data is the critical part. Data is everything. So I would just complete here, because I think that time is short, because I can go on and on in this case. If anybody has questions, I would be happy to answer that.
Thank you, sir. Sir, at present there are no questions, sir. Sir, Aditya posted his question and you answered his question. So I guess there are no questions. Okay, so sir, we can conclude now. Amish will conclude.
Yes, there is, you give the announcement for the fees also.
You do. Better.
Fine, no problem. For the next financial year, that is 2021-22, those members who have paid rupees 2,700 for the financial year 2021 will be carry forward to the next year. And those members who had paid half yearly fees of say 1,000 or a quarterly fees of 500 have to pay 2,000 rupees fees for a new year. And any member who is want to add a new for this coming financial year, that is 2021-22, has to pay a 2,000 rupees yearly membership for AOSC, and this we have to pay before 30th April. Now you can conclude, sir. Deepak, over to you.
So
Thank you, Amish. Yes, sir, Mukul sir.
no, I would like to thanks for the time on Sunday, and really I was just going through their website and the details as well. So a big congratulations to Amish ji and Deepak ji and all the team for having the webinars. And you have done the right, you have utilized the Corona period, the COVID period in a very best way of having the knowledge sharing. And best of luck to everybody in Mumbai. I think the COVID cases are increasing. So take care, everybody. And thanks from my side.
Thank you, Mukul sir. As you rightly told, sir, it was only because of COVID that we are able to hear from you. We are able to hear your experience, sir. And as you rightly told, sir, that CAs are better than MBA, sir, first. And the second thing is that forensic is all about using your experience, practical and everything. Academic is one part and application of practical mindset, acumen is another part. And you rightly demonstrated that thing, sir, through your practical case sites, which have been executed by you, sir. So, sir, we are very grateful today that we were able to listen to two speakers, first Rahul Jindal, sir, and second Mukul, sir. So on behalf of Andheri Oshiwara Study Circle, I, Deepak Madlecha, sir, give you a hearty vote of thanks. And sir, we would like to hear from you in the coming financial year also, and to listen to your more experiences which you are doing the forensic audit, sir.
Definitely.
So, sir, thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much. And as rightly told by Mukul, sir, that COVID cases are increasing. So I request all the members to be at home. And if you go out, be safe. Dhyan rakhiyega. Bas, thank you. Enjoy the Sunday. Thank you very much.